Imagine this. The oceans don't drown you, they melt you. That sounds impossible. But hidden inside our future is a terrifying possibility that scientists are already watching unfold. And if it ever reached its extreme, life on Earth could face a nightmare unlike anything in human history. Right now, the oceans cover more than 70% of our planet. They're home to millions of species, regulate our climate, and make life possible. But what if, almost overnight, those oceans transformed into something closer to battery acid? To understand the danger, we need to talk about pH. Our oceans currently sit at a relatively safe pH of around 8. Battery acid sits near 0. That's not a small difference. It's the difference between supporting life and destroying it. But here's the strange part. The process has already begun. As carbon dioxide fills Earth's atmosphere, the oceans absorb huge amounts of it. When that carbon dioxide mixes with seawater, it creates carbonic acid. Slowly, almost invisibly, the chemistry of the oceans starts changing. Scientists already warn that parts of the world's oceans are becoming more acidic. But what happens if we push this process to the absolute extreme? The first victims would be everywhere. Fish, coral, microscopic organisms. Entire ecosystems would collapse before humans even understood what was happening. And that's not even the craziest part. Because the real disaster wouldn't begin with what dies. It would begin with what disappears. The ocean food chain. The hidden system supporting nearly all marine life. Once that chain breaks, something much larger starts falling apart. And that's when things changed. Within hours, the oceans would become a graveyard. More than 230,000 known marine species exist today. Scientists believe millions more remain undiscovered. In a world of acidic oceans, nearly all of them vanish. Fish would die first, then predators, then scavengers, then everything else. You might think tougher creatures could survive. Sharks have thick skin. Crabs and lobsters wear armored shells. Surely some would adapt. But this is where it gets weird. Survival isn't just about resisting acid. It's about having something left to eat. Even if a handful of species somehow endured the chemical assault, the collapse of the food web would seal their fate. One extinction would trigger another, then another, then another. A chain reaction with no stopping point. And history suggests this isn't science fiction. Around 55 million years ago, Earth experienced a massive ocean acidification event. It unfolded over thousands of years, not overnight. Yet it still triggered widespread extinctions across the planet. Now imagine compressing that catastrophe into a single century. Or worse, a single day, the oceans would become nearly lifeless. Coral reefs, some of the most complex ecosystems on Earth, would begin dissolving. Entire underwater cities built over thousands of years would simply disappear. But here's the terrifying twist nobody talks about. The death of the oceans wouldn't stay in the oceans. Because once the sea itself becomes corrosive, it starts targeting something new. Us. And what happens next changes everything. At first, coastal communities would notice strange erosion. Then the damage accelerates. The same oceans that slowly shape shorelines today would become relentless chemical weapons against the land itself. Cliffs crumble. Beaches vanish. Foundations weaken. Cities standing near the coast begin losing ground to an enemy that never sleeps. And then comes the real nightmare. Storms. Climate change already increases the risk of stronger weather events. Now imagine hurricanes carrying corrosive ocean water directly into crowded streets. Buildings weaken. Roads crack apart. Infrastructure collapses. And anyone exposed to the water suffers severe chemical burns. Swimming wouldn't be dangerous. It would be impossible. Millions would be forced inland searching for safety. But even that solution wouldn't last forever. Because the oceans wouldn't stop advancing. They would continue eating away at coastlines year after year, transforming once thriving regions into uninhabitable wastelands. And that's the shocking truth. The greatest threat wouldn't be the acid itself. It would be the complete collapse of the system civilization depends on. Food, infrastructure, economies, entire nations. One by one, they begin to fail. The planet would still exist. The oceans would still exist. But the world we recognize would be gone. And after everything collapsed, after the coastlines disappeared, after the oceans swallowed what remained of civilization, one question would still remain. If our oceans can slowly change today without most people noticing, How close are we to the point where the damage can no longer be reversed?